Hello, hello, hello. Today I am here with Marifran, and we are talking all about thriving in partnerships. This is going to be so much fun. For those of you that don't know me, I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and this is Her Talk Show. If you are not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. These podcasts are guaranteed to have you thinking differently about life.
Get ready, because today's guest is about to change the way you view your world. This is Her Talk Show, hosted by Sabrina Victoria.
If you are listening live, welcome. And if you're listening on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay so we can send you some love in the comments. We have had over 500 women grace this stage, and we are adding another one to the list today, Marifran. Marifran coaches women, empty nesters who desire a deep connection with their spouse. With over 30 years of successful coaching experience, she assists clients in creating a plan for their midlife partnership. I just love this. Using communication techniques and her own personalized methods, her clients reconnect with their power and their partner. Also, Marifran authored 4 books, including Breaking Through Concrete, The Gift of Having Mentally Ill Parents. Welcome, Marifran.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate it. And I just love this topic.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that you invited me.
Yeah, for sure. So for those that maybe don't know about this or understand this, can you explain empty nesters?
Oh, yes.
And what the journey, maybe a little bit of your journey.
Absolutely. Well, being an empty nester is when your children leave home. And so, the birds have flown and it's just you and your partner. So it's a whole new chapter in your relationship because you've never been at this place before. You got married, you had kids, and that took up a lot of energy. That was your project, to raise those kids, and now they're gone. So what's next? Where are you? And all the little things that went along the way, the good and the not so good, really come up for reevaluation. At that time. Yeah. So it's a very transitional time. And a lot of times it's difficult for people. For women, a lot of times they're so connected to the children that it's hard for them to adjust.
Yeah.
And just like I said, the difficulties that were there, suddenly now you're going to deal with them because you didn't have time or energy to deal with them before. So it's time to heal and move forward, or heal and look at whether you want to still be in that relationship.
100%. Yeah, when we were talking about this earlier, it's definitely something that I am aware of, but something that I had never really thought about. And that is when your children leave, they're like not distracting you anymore. So it's just you and your spouse.
Yes.
And there isn't any more like conversations through the kids. It's like you and him at the dinner table, and you have to like talk.
There's no talking about the kids either.
Yeah.
It's just you and him.
Yeah.
And so the reason I got into creating a business called Soulful Solutions Consulting was because I had a realization that I didn't want to continue. And the the background is that my husband had depression that he inherited. And the longer you have depression, the worse it is. And it really didn't show up when we first got married. And then it started showing up more and more and more. And things got tough. And the type of depression he had was anger depression. That was dominant. And since I was around, I got the brunt of it. So by the time we were married, 22 years, it was like I was done.
Yeah.
And so then what happened is after we separated, people started calling me and saying, "Oh, you and Ed broke up and you're still friends. How did that happen? How does that work?" So I would tell them. And 3 of my friends were ready to break up. And they started paying me. And they said, go into business. So I did. And from then on, it's been, more and more realizations that happen, at this time. And, it's a very tricky time, that the empty nester time.
Yeah.
For a woman, a lot of times she's gone through hormonal changes. So, but that's a good thing because she's at a point where she's not going to put up with anything. So things have to either work out or they walk out. So
Yeah.
it's a very great time, actually. And the thing is about this time, you grow a lot. I believe in thriving, not just surviving in a relationship.
Yeah.
And I've looked up what thriving means. And in the dictionary, it says thriving is growing and developing. But I say it can be a lot more. Thriving can be that you're both satisfied and fulfilled, and that you're actually expanding your joy. How about that? Theoretically, everybody could do that. Why not when you're together? Why not make it absolutely, incredible for both of you? But we know, Sabrina, you and I know that's not always possible. Because of the trauma that you and or your partner has had, things break down and they take a lot of extra dealing with in order to get through them.
Absolutely. Do you notice with your clients that one of the main issues is that people changed during the duration of the relationship? Because it's a long time, right? Like it's 20, 25, sometimes 30 years, depending on how many kids you have. And I'm assuming that people evolve. So then when you come back together, you almost have to relearn each other, no?
Absolutely. Yeah, you need a different project. You had this project to raise one or more children. And for most people, I'm talking about the married with children people.
Yeah.
People that don't have children may have an easier time because they're together all the time. They don't have that the children as a project. So they may be making adjustments as they go. But with married people with children, it's a different thing. A lot of time they're playing roles without realizing it and not really seeing themselves so much as a spouse,
Definitely.
Um,
Yeah, seeing themselves more as a caregiver.
yes, yes, yeah.
Definitely.
So, um,
What are some of the questions that, individuals who are at this point in their life where their children are leaving and they are sitting with their spouse and they're contemplating leaving?
mhm.
What are some questions that somebody should ask themselves when contemplating whether they should leave or whether they should stay, whether it's fixable or not?
Well, they need to look at, will the partner cooperate with fixing it? A
Mm,
lot of times, one is not interested in fixing it. But if you've got a fighting chance, if your partner is, and you need to look at what are the what are the things that you require in a relationship? What isn't working and what is working? What is working is so valuable. We forget about it. We take it for granted a lot of times. So just be aware what doesn't work. What is your bottom line? What do you need? And can that partner give it to you? And what does he need or what does she need? And can that partner give what the other needs? It's a back and forth. Both people need to be satisfied and fulfilled, really.
definitely. I like this thought processy as far as what is working.
Yes, yes, yes. And really acknowledge it. Let the other know, you know, thank them for what they're doing, what they're contributing to the relationship and to you.
Hmm.
What are they doing that enriches your life or makes it easier? So it needs to be said, you know.
Definitely. Yeah. For those that are not feeling a connection anymore, right? The children leave, the project is done, and they're in this big old house
Mhm.
with this person, and they're not feeling the emotional connection. What are a couple of things, or maybe just even one thing, that an individual can or individuals can do to rekindle that emotion?
Oh, there's so many things. There really are. Um, I say that this is really a work that I'm doing in recent years. Before I was working with people to help them through that transition, the empty nester transition in whatever direction they need to go. And but when it comes when people are looking at staying together, and I'm looking at what are the great things they can do to enrich their lives. And I love what Archbishop Desmond Tutu said, that we have to stop pulling bodies out of the river and start looking at why they're falling in. And so that's what I'm looking at is preventing um, uh, any divorce or separation. And see, these are some of the things I have people look at. Um, there's various areas of our life, and so if you take any area and see what you can do to make it better for yourself and your partner, that goes a long way. Or there may be things that you want to do together, like something for the community. For instance, my husband and I have gotten involved in political campaigns, and we've learned so much and grown together as a result. And we can tell stories about people we've met and the things that we've done together in those campaigns. So there's that so the area of community There's the area of finances. What can you do together if you want to pay off the house or whatever that project is? What can you do together to make that happen? And it may be things you want to do separately that that still enhance your relationship. There's also looking at the legacy that you want to leave. If you've been married 25, 30 years, let's look at what do each of you want to leave the next generation with? There's other relationships. What friendships do you want to encourage? What parties do you want to give? We have, my husband and I have, he plays music. So we have music events at our house, and we just fill the house with other singers, musicians, dancers. We have a ball. There's so many different areas of life. It's just sitting down and planning what is it you want to do with the rest of your life. My husband and I also like to read. I mean, this sounds silly, but there was a time when we would read to each other and we would talk, read one sentence and talk for an hour, and sometimes we read separately. We're not always interested in the same book, and we'll sit next to each other and read. But surely one of us will find something that we have to share while we're reading. And then that goes on for quite a while. So there's all kinds of enriching things that people can do to make relationships so much better, so much more interesting, so much more alive. Look in the areas of mental, emotional, physical health. What can you do together to support each other in eating right, or organizing different things, organizing the basement, or the garage.
Yeah. This is, I love all of these examples. I wrote some of these down. And what it's reminding me of is dating again.
Yes.
So you start to date and then you get married and you're still kind of dating.
Yes.
And then you have children. And then that a lot of times, not every time, but a lot of times goes to the wayside and just everything revolves around the kids. Everything you do, the kids come with, and it's like the kids are always there. And then when the children leave, you get to date again.
Yes.
Yeah. So you get to go to parties and do music and create projects together, and find things that you both like that you used to do when you were dating.
Yes. Or even things that you do separately and then talk about it. You have something to bring to each other at the end of the day.
Yes.
So there's so much that's possible. And so that's what I'm about, having everyone enjoy their relationship and thrive. And not just in the relationship, but your whole life is thriving when your relationship is supported.
Yeah. Yeah. Are there any pointers that you have for individuals when it just doesn't seem to work out? Is there like communication skills
Yes.
that somebody can start working on? Should they see somebody? Should they get a coach like you in order to work on that? Should they read a book? Like, how do you figure out because sometimes sometimes people are angry. They're at that point where they're like, I know that you went through that. I'm sure that there was some I'm
Oh,
sure it wasn't like peachy keen the entire time through. I'm sure there was like some harsh words that were said.
for sure.
So how do we sit down? How do we have conversations about this?
Well, first of all, in order to really have a conversation, if both people think that they want to continue and they just want to get over the bumpy road that they're presently on at the moment, they can come together and with a moderator and just look at what is the issue. If they can work through what's got them, where they're upset. A lot of times it's just one person's upset, you know, and if the other person can really care that that person's upset and look at what they are willing to give, what would make the other happy, that can work.
Hmm.
But not all, it doesn't always work. There's, it's wounds we have.
Yeah.
Um, in the situation I had, my husband was suffering depression, and that depression um, was something that was, he did not want to take medicine. He actually went for help because I gave an ultimatum. They either got help or I would leave. And he went to therapy, but then he refused medicine, and so I just needed to leave. But
Hmm.
I wasn't into making him wrong, and that's what I do advise people, is to do your best to avoid making that person wrong. They're doing what they're doing because something that's got a hold of them, and especially if it's somebody that you care about. If you've already given up caring, don't even worry about it. Just go for the door and find the first lawyer you can, or and make that transition out.
Yeah.
But if there's any hope, a lot of times things can work. But in my case, it couldn't. However, what did happen was that we kept friendship because I wasn't making him wrong. He chose what he chose, and I chose to leave. And so we kept in touch, and we eventually remarried.
Hmm. And is
So
that because you started dating again?
no, I didn't really date him. It was that we talked. This was what happened is 3 years into our separation, he took medicine. He finally took medicine, but I still wasn't thinking that we would get together again. We were in touch before he took medicine and after.
Hmm.
But one time when we talked, I really had a breakthrough with him, or he had a breakthrough in the questions I was asking, which led to me being in business too. I was able to use questions, and he said to me, I will go get medicine. And he did. And when he took the medicine, 2 weeks later, he was a different person. I mean, people would say to him, "Hey, what are you on?"
Wow.
He was so different, you
Wow.
know. Yeah. And there's probably a lot of that with people undiagnosed depression, in a lot of relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never heard of this depression, anger.
Anger, depression, yeah.
Yeah. I've never.
You don't hear a lot about it, but I read one time that there's three kinds of depression. One is fear, and that's anxiety. It's called anxiety. Makes sense. Depression, a sad depression is what's most commonly known. But there is anger depression. And, you can find it on Google, but there isn't a lot of talk about it. And, when people are angry, you think they're just a bad person. But I knew he was a good person. I knew he was loving and kind, and yet he wasn't acting that way. And and it got worse and worse and worse. And I could see his father the same way. And I told him, "You're turning out like your father." And he got upset, but he knew I was right.
Yeah.
So, but he still couldn't take the medicine until he did. And so I don't know if I answered the question.
Yeah, that's great. I want to ask, in your journey, through all of the ups and downs, what have you noticed to be the number one lesson that you have learned about life?
Lesson about life. Well, one thing that comes to mind is things go up and down. Um, people who started out with a lot of money, for instance, don't always have money 20 years later. Other people who start out really poor sometimes end up, doing really well. The same with, love and marriage. Things look all hunky-dory with a lot of people, and it tanks quickly. And then other people where they might have scraps and fights and different things, they stay married 50 years later. So you just never know. You can't predict. Life is so strange.
Yeah, definitely. What would be some advice we have a ton of people watching live right now. Obviously, they're resonating with what you're saying. And by the way, thank you for being here and watching us live.
Yeah.
For those of you watching on the replay, feel free to drop into the comments so we can send you some love.
Yes.
Watching that a little bit later. But I want to ask Marifran, for females who are watching this and who are really struggling with whether to stay or whether to go, what is the first step? Towards any decision.
Well, one thing I do is write down on a piece of paper. I fold it in half lengthwise, vertically. On the left side, I write why yes, and on the right side, why no. And then I see a lot of times it doesn't matter if the no's are longer than the yeses. Maybe the yeses are more powerful. But somehow putting it on paper makes a difference to me. Sometimes for other people, talking it out, just blabbing for a couple hours, they start to see something, or maybe the person you're talking to sees something in what they're saying. So there's different ways people have of getting it out so that they can see what really is true. Our intuition will tell us. We'll get a feeling.
Yeah.
We have different ways of knowing. And my way is often to use the conscious mind to get to the unconscious. I just have to go through that step. But for other people, they might just sit for 5 minutes and meditate on it and know for sure.
Yeah.
That's it. And nothing you could say could change their mind because they know.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, definitely agree with that. So as far as Marifran and all of the wonderful things that you do, obviously we're getting a really good idea of what you do. Can you give us a synopsis of your kind of coaching? And, for those that are listening live and on the replay and who are really resonating with what you're saying, who should be reaching out to you? Who do you help?
I help people who are uncomfortable in their relationship, uncomfortable, uneasy, just even a little upset. They need to talk to somebody who understands, who's been there. So that's mainly who I help. It's most people who come to me or have come to me are women empty nesters, but I've had other people too. Um, I've had men and couples, but mostly it's just single or just women in a relationship that have some issue that they need to resolve.
Absolutely. And where can people find you online, and where do you hang out on social media?
Facebook. It's just Facebook, Marifran Korb .com.
Fantastic. Fantastic. What is your dream for all empty nesters?
That they rejuvenate themselves and they find joy and everything they want, their dreams coming true, happy every day, not just on special occasions, that they create on a regular basis, and they, they wouldn't change their life for a minute,
Yeah.
because when this is the world that would really be powerful.
Mm.
If everybody had a great relationship, just think of the world we would live in. Right now, the statistics are 40 to 50% of people get divorced. And when you think of how many people are in miserable relationships, that that puts the number way up.
100%. Yeah, I agree. Can you take a moment to talk about the books you've written?
Sure. I actually wrote a book called Thriving in Partnership Beyond Struggle, a love story
Mm.
about that journey with my husband. And and that's one book. And I have another book right here, Breaking Through Concrete, The Gift
Mm.
of Having Mentally Ill Parents. Um, it's kind of interesting that my parents had mental illness, and then I unconsciously married a man who had a mental illness, undiagnosed. And my father was an alcoholic and a sad depressive, and he also had Asperger's syndrome. And my mother was manic depressive and disorganized schizophrenic. So when I grew up, there wasn't a lot of emotional support, let's say.
Oh, yeah.
So when my husband started to get depressed, and I would hear abusive things, I didn't react in quite a normal way. I was used to that.
Hmm. Yeah.
But I have made my transition in putting up with things. So, I overcame, and that's what I had to do. So
Yeah.
now I help other people overcome wherever they're stuck.
There you go.
Oh, and so those are two books. And then I have two other books that are on my website. So I won't take up your time.
Well, I love that. And I love those so much that you were here and you were hanging out with us. I appreciate everything you shared.
Oh,
And my main takeaway is all those empty nesters out there, you need to start going on some hot dates again.
yeah.
Yes.
Your husband, hopefully, you know.
I
So,
love that. We do have a question from one of our listeners, Sheila. Does Mary Fran offer an opportunity to speak with her before deciding to hire her as a
oh, absolutely. And that's on my website, marifrankorb.com. I do a 20-minute um, uh, talk to anybody who wants to see if I'm the right person for them. And so that's a complimentary 20 minutes that I'm happy to do. So definitely get in touch.
Beautiful. Any closing thoughts, Marifran, as we wrap up?
Well, it's been a delight to be with you. I've enjoyed this time. Let me see if there was anything I wanted to say. That I know that all of the people listening have overcome a lot themselves. That that they've done a lot already to move the needle from not so good to really good in various areas of their life. So use that. I just, advise everyone to use that place within you that has overcome things, and know that you can overcome anything else too.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of times we think, oh, I can't do this or I can't do that. You've done it already, so you just take on one more thing.
Yes. Yes, I agree. Well, this has been a delight. Thank you so much, Marifran. For those of you listening live and on the replay, if you resonated with Marifran and all the goodness that she shared, make sure to check her out on her website, marifrankorb.com. It is a clickable link wherever you are watching us at. She predominantly hangs out on Facebook, so make sure you connect with her. We love to connect people here on this platform in order to make sure that we all continue to rise. This brings us to an end of yet another incredible episode of Her Talk Show. Thank you so much for being here and listening. Remember to follow, like, and share. And once again, my name is Sabrina Victoria. I am the host here at Her Talk Show, and I invite you to join our amazing community, Her Nation, where we continue to lift each other up by having beautiful conversations just like this. Until next